Thank you, girl, for teaching me brand new ways to be true. I can find my mind now to sleep.
Hey guys. So we tried a different intro tonight because Todd the Fox and crew are going to be playing at the Sugar Maple Festival on Saturday. So that is just a little taste of what you'll see. Um, but Todd the Fox Music is such a huge supporter of the show that I wanted to make sure that we give a little shout out, give a little plug for the show on Saturday. That's from 3 to 4 in Bellbrook, Ohio. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys like that. But we are back on Wednesdays. We've not gone anywhere. We've been here every Wednesday for over a year now, which is awesome. And that's because of you guys. You guys hang out with me every Wednesday, and as long as you do, I'll keep doing this. Uh, we have just barely scratched the surface of the world of short stories. So I am very excited to be doing this with you guys every week. I feel like I'm gibbering again, but you guys are used to that. You like it. That's why you're here every week. We are missing a couple of our pack members tonight. Um, but they will be back next week. So we are just going to move along. As always, please say hey in the chat so that we know you're here and who is hanging out with us. We can say hey back to you. And we are continuing on with Oscar Wilde. We will be with him again next week because there are 5 of his stories in this book. So we'll get 3 weeks with Mr. Wilde, which is very cool. I'm just going to read them in the order of the book. I was going to flip flop them because the second story, The Happy Prince, is definitely a children's tale, but the sun is still shining. Nobody's going to bed yet. So we'll just read them in order the way we have been this whole book. This is the world's greatest short stories. Another one, rock and roll. Heidi McCack is here. Heidi is, if you guys were here, New Year's Eve. No, Heidi. New Year's Eve? Was it Christmas Eve? I'm so sorry. But Heidi did write an original story just for us. And Heidi McCack Films is just rocking and rolling and putting out movies. And I'm so excited for her and for everybody that is involved in her projects because they are happening. And if you know anything about this industry, that is half of, well, maybe a little bit more than half the battle. Heidi, you can correct me in the chat, but getting people to believe in your project as much as you do and want to back that either financially or just getting the word out, making connections for you, doing all that kind of stuff, that is a bear. New Year's Eve, I thought it was. And then I got myself all worried that it was Christmas instead. But yeah, Heidi is making it happen. And it's awesome. Some good things are going to come from Heidi McCack Films. You absolutely are, my dear. You absolutely are. I'm so proud of you. And yeah, good things are coming. So, anyway, you guys know I'll just squirrel all night. So we will get into our stories. Thank you guys for being here with me again. If you get a chance, check out Heidi's stuff. You can just click on her right there. And you might see Katie somewhere on Heidi's page where I've seen me. And Jen's here too. Hi. I'm so glad you made it. I'm sorry I didn't return your message yet. But I did get it. You're welcome, babe. Yes, I did get your message. So we'll talk tomorrow and get everything all squared away. But yes, so tonight we have the Model Millionaire and the Happy Prince. They're both relatively ish. They're short for us, I'll say. So we'll do two tonight. We'll do two next week, and then Heidi McCack Films on YouTube. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So sorry, somebody started mowing. I hope you guys can't hear that. That might be my yard. That might be Kyle. So let me know if you guys can hear that. I think we can probably. Let's just see if we can. Eileen, sorry. Lean. I think it's probably okay. You guys will let me know if it's not. But anyway, let's get into our stories. Oh, all over the place. First story tonight is The Model Millionaire. If you're just jumping on, jump in the chat and say hello. Unless one is wealthy, there is no use in being a charming fellow. Romance is the privilege of the rich, not the profession of the unemployed. The poor should be practical and prosaic. It is better to have a permanent income than to be fascinating. These are the great truths of modern life which Huey Erskine never realized. Poor Huey. Intellectually, we must admit, he was not of much importance. He never said a brilliant or even an ill-natured thing in his life. But then he was wonderfully good-looking, with his crisp brown hair, his clear-cut profile, and his gray eyes. He was as popular with men as he was with women, and he had every accomplishment except that of making money. His father had bequeathed him his cavalry sword and a history of peninsular war in 15 volumes. Thank you. Huey hung the first over his looking glass, put the second on a shelf between Ruff's Guide and Bailey's Magazine, and lived on $200 a year that an old aunt allowed him. He had tried everything. He had gone on the stock exchange for 6 months, but what was a butterfly to do among bulls and bears? He had been a tea merchant for a little longer, but had soon tired of Pico and Souchong. Then he had tried selling dry sherry. That did not answer. The sherry was a little too dry. Ultimately, he became nothing. A delightful and effectual young man with a perfect profile and no profession. To make matters worse, he was in love. The girl he loved was Laura Merton, the daughter of a retired colonel who had lost his temper and his digestion in India, and had never found either of them again. Laura adored him, and he was ready to kiss her shoestrings. They were the handsomest couple in London, and not a penny piece between them. The colonel was very fond of Huey, but would not hear of any engagement. "Come to me, my boy, when you've got 10,000 pounds of your own, and we'll see about it," he used to say, and Huey looked very glum in those days and had to go to Laura for consolation. One morning, as he was on his way to Holland Park, where the Mertons lived, he dropped in to see a great friend of his, Alan Trevor. Trevor was a painter. Indeed, few people escape that nowadays. But he was also an artist, and artists are rather rare. Personally, he was a strange, rough fellow, with a freckled face and a red, ragged beard. However, when he took up the brush, he was a real master, and his pictures were eagerly sought after. He had been very much attracted by Huey at first, it must be acknowledged, entirely on account of his personal charm. "The only people a painter should know," he used to say, "are people who bete and beautiful, people who are an artistic pleasure to look at and an intellectual repose to talk to. Men who are dandies and women who are darlings rule the world. At least they should do so. However, after he got to know Huey better, he liked him quite as much for his bright, buoyant spirits and his generous, reckless nature, and had given him the permanent entree to his studio. When Huey came in, he found Trevor putting the finishing touches to a wonderful life-size picture of a beggar man. The beggar himself was standing on a raised platform in a corner of the studio. He was a wizened old man, with a face like wrinkled parchment and a most piteous expression. Over his shoulders was flung a coarse brown cloak, all tears and tatters. His thick boots were patched and cobbled, and with one hand he leant on a rough stick, while with the other he held out his battered hat for alms. Hmm. Hmm. What an amazing model, whispered Huey as he shook hands with his friend. An amazing model? Shouted Trevor at the top of his voice. I should think so. Such beggars as he are not to be met with every day. A Trouvillier, mon cher, a living Velasquez. My stars, what an etching Rembrandt would have made of him. Poor old chap, said Huey. How miserable he looks. But I suppose, to you painters, his face is his fortune? Certainly, replied Trevor. You don't want a beggar to look happy, do you? How much does a model get for sitting? Asked Huey as he found himself a comfortable seat on the divan. $1 an hour. And how much do you get for your picture, Alan? Oh, for this I get 2,000. Pounds? Guineas. Painters, poets, and physicians always get guineas. Well, I think the model should have a percentage, cried Huey, laughing. They work quite as hard as you do. Nonsense, nonsense. Why, look at the trouble of laying on the paint alone and standing all day long at one's easel. It's all very well, Huey, for you to talk, but I assure you that there are moments when art almost attains to the dignity of manual labor. But you mustn't chatter. I'm very busy. Smoke a cigarette and be quiet. After some time, the servant came in and told Trevor that the frame maker wanted to speak to him. Don't run away, Huey, he said as he went out. I will be back in a moment. The old beggarman took advantage of Trevor's absence to rest for a moment on a wooden bench that was behind him. He looked so forlorn and wretched that Huey could not help pitying him, and felt in his pockets to see what money he had. All he could find was a sovereign and some coppers. Poor old fellow, he thought to himself. He wants it more than I do, but it means no hansoms for a fortnight. And he walked across the studio and slipped the sovereign into the beggar's hand. The old man started, and a faint smile flitted across his withered lips. Thank you, sir, he said. Thank you. Then Trevor arrived, and Huey took his leave, blushing a little at what he had done. He spent the day with Laura, got a charming scolding for his extravagance, and had to walk home. That night, he strolled into the Palette Club about 11 o'clock and found Trevor sitting by himself in the smoking room, drinking hock and seltzer. Well, Alan, did you get the picture finished all right? He said as he lit a cigarette. Finished and framed, my boy, answered Trevor. And by the by, you've made a conquest. That old model you saw is quite devoted to you. I had to tell him all about you, who you are, where you live, what your income is, what prospects you have. My dear Alan, cried Huey, I shall probably find him waiting for me when I go home. But of course you were only joking. Poor old wretch. I wish I could do something for him. I think it is dreadful that anyone should be so miserable. I've got heaps of old clothes at home. Do you think he would care for any of them? Why, his rags were falling to bits. But he looks splendid in them, said Trevor. I wouldn't paint him in a frock coat for anything. What you call rags, I call romance. What seems poverty to you is picturesque to me. However, I'll tell him of your offer. Alan, said Huey seriously, you painters are a heartless lot. An artist's heart is in his head, replied Trevor. And besides, our business is to realize the world as we see it, not to reform it as we know it. And now, tell me how Laura is. The old model was quite interested in her. You don't mean to say you talked to him about her, said Huey. Certainly I did. He knows all about the relentless Colonel, the lovely Laura, and the 10,000 pounds. You told that old beggar about my private affairs? Cried Huey, looking very red and angry. My dear boy, said Trevor, smiling, that old beggar, as you call him, is one of the richest men in Europe. He could buy all London tomorrow without overdrawing his account. He has a house in every capital, dines off gold plate, and can prevent Russia going to war with chooses. What on earth do you mean? Exclaimed Huey. What I say, said Trevor. The old man you saw today in the studio was Baron Hausberg. He's a great friend of mine, buys all my pictures and that sort of thing, and gave me a commission a month ago to paint him as a beggar. Que voulez-vous? Le fantasy the millionaire. And I must say he made a magnificent figure in his rags. Or perhaps I should say in my rags. They are an old suit I got in Spain. Baron Hausberg? Cried Huey. Good heavens, I gave him a sovereign. And he sank into an armchair, the picture of dismay. Gave him a sovereign? Shouted Trevor, and he burst into a roar of laughter. My dear boy, you'll never see it again. I think you might have told me, Alan, said Huey sulkily, and not have let me make such a fool of myself. Well, to begin with, Huey, said Trevor, it never entered my mind that you went about distributing alms in that reckless way. I can understand you're kissing a pretty model, but you're giving a sovereign to an ugly one? By Jove, no. Besides, the fact is that I really was not at home today to anyone. And when you came in, I didn't know whether Hausberg would like his name mentioned. You know he wasn't in full dress. That's so funny. What a duffer he must think me, said Huey. Not at all. He was in the highest spirits after you left, kept chuckling to himself and rubbing his old wrinkled hands together. I couldn't make out why he was so interested to know all about you, but I see it now. He'll invest your sovereign for you, Huey, pay you the interest every 6 months, and have a capital story to tell you after dinner. I'm an unlucky devil, growled Huey. The best thing I can do is go to bed. And my dear Alan, you mustn't tell anyone. I shouldn't dare to show my face in the row. Nonsense. It reflects the highest credit on your philanthropic spirit, Huey. And don't run away. Have another cigarette and you can talk about Laura as much as you like. However, Huey wouldn't stop, but walked home, feeling very unhappy and leaving Alan Trevor in fits of laughter. The next morning, as he was at breakfast, the servant brought him up a card on which was written, Monsieur Gustave Nodin, de la part de Monsieur le Baron Hausberg. I suppose he's come for an apology, said Huey to himself, and he told the servant to show the visitor up. An old gentleman with gold spectacles and gray hair came into the room and said, in a slight French accent, Have I the honor of addressing Monsieur Erskine? Huey bowed. I have come from Baron Hausberg, he continued. The Baron, I beg, sir, that you will offer him my sincerest apologies, stammered Huey. The Baron, said the old gentleman with a smile, has commissioned me to bring you this letter, and he extended a sealed envelope. On the outside was written, a wedding present to Hugh Erskine and Laura Merton from an old beggar, and inside was a check for £10,000. When they were married, Alan Trevor was the best man, and the Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast. Millionaire models, remarked Alan, are rare enough, but by Jove, model millionaires are rarer still. That was sweet. Oh, I'm so glad that worked out. I was a little afraid what was going to happen, that like it was going to be a scary story. But that one was very sweet. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you are just joining us about halfway through, please say hey in the chat. I am kind of hoping somebody had a chance to jump in, but sorry. So yeah, our next one is The Happy Prince, and this was actually part of a short story collection for children. So this is a children's story. It is looks to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to take another drink. I apologize for the tickle near the end of that last one, but much better than last week. Yeah, so we'll get started on The Happy Prince. High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes he had 2 bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. He was very much admired indeed. He is as beautiful as a weathercock, remarked one of the town councillors, who wished to gain a reputation for having artistic tastes. Only not quite so useful, he added, fearing lest people should think him unpractical, which he really was not. Excuse me. Why can't you be like the Happy Prince? Asked a sensible mother of her little boy who was crying for the moon. The Happy Prince never dreams of crying for anything. I am glad there is someone in the world who is quite happy, muttered a disappointed man as he gazed at the wonderful statue. He looks just like an angel, said the charity children as they came out of the cathedral in their bright scarlet cloaks and their clean white pinafores. How do you know? Said the mathematical master. You've never seen one. Ah, but we have, in our dreams, answered the children. And the mathematical master frowned and looked very severe, for he did not approve of children dreaming. One night there flew over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind, for he was in love with the most beautiful reed. He had met her early in the spring as he was flying down the river after a big yellow moth, and had been so attracted by her slender waist that he had stopped to talk to her. Shall I love you? Said the swallow, who liked to come to the point at once, and the reed made him a low bow. So he flew round and round her, touching the water with his wings and making silver ripples. This was his courtship, and it lasted all through the summer. It is a ridiculous attachment, twitted the other swallows. She has no money and far too many relations. And indeed the river was quite full of reeds. Then, when the autumn came, they all flew away. After they had gone, he felt lonely and began to tire of his lady love. She has no conversation, he said, and I'm afraid that she is a coquette, for she is always flirting with the wind. And certainly, whenever the wind blew, the reed made the most graceful curtsies. I admit that she is domestic, he continued, but I love traveling, and my wife consequently should love traveling also. Will you come away with me? He said finally to her. But the reed shook her head. She was so attached to her home. You have been trifling with me, he cried. I am off to the pyramids. Goodbye. And he flew away. All day long he flew, and at night time he arrived at the city. Where shall I put up? He said. I hope the town has made preparations. Then he saw the statue on the tall column. I will put up there, he cried. It is a fine position, plenty of fresh air. So he alighted just between the feet of the happy prince. I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked round. And he prepared to go to sleep, but just as he was putting his head under his wing, a large drop of water fell on him. What a curious thing, he cried. There's not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. Excuse me. The climate in the north of Europe is really dreadful. The reed used to like the rain, but that was merely her selfishness. Then another drop fell. What is the use of a statue if it can't keep the rain off? He said. I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell, and he looked up and saw. What did he see? Anybody have a guess? The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. Who are you? He said. I am the happy prince. Why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. You have quite drenched me. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue, I did not know what tears were, for I had lived in the palace of Sanssouci, where sorrow is not allowed to enter. In the daytime I played with my companions in the garden, and in the evening I led the dance in the great hall. Round the garden ran a very lofty wall, but I never cared to ask what lay beyond it. Everything about me was so beautiful. My courtiers called me the happy prince, and happy indeed I was, if pleasure be happiness. So I lived, and so I died. And now that I am dead, they have set me up here so high that I can see all the ugliness and all the misery of my city. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. What? Is he not solid gold? Said the swallow to himself. He was too polite to make any personal remarks out loud. Far away, continued the statue in a low musical voice. Far away in a little street there's a poor house. One of the windows is open, and through it I can see a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has coarse red hands, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress. She is embroidering passion flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of the queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is falling ill. He has a fever and is asking for oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water, so he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal, and I cannot move. I am waited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile and talking to the large lotus flowers. Soon they will go to sleep in the tomb of the great king. The king is there himself in a painted coffin. He is wrapped in yellow linen and embalmed with spices. Round his neck is a chain of pale green jade, and his hands are like withered leaves. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me for one night and be my messenger? The boy is so thirsty, and the mother is so sad. I don't think I like boys, answered the swallow. Last summer, when I was staying on the river, there were two rude boys, the miller's sons, who were always throwing stones at me. They never hit me, of course. We swallows fly far too well for that. And besides, I come from a family famous for its agility, but still, it was a mark of disrespect. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little swallow was sorry. It is very cold here, he said, but I will stay with you for one night and be your messenger. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. So the swallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's sword, and he flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. He passed by the cathedral tower, where the white marble angels were sculptured. He passed by the palace and heard the sound of dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. How wonderful the stars are, he said to her, and how wonderful is the power of love. I hope my dress will be ready in time for the state ball, she answered. I have ordered passion flowers to be embroidered on it, but the seamstresses are so lazy. He passed over the river and saw the lanterns hanging to the masts of the ships. He passed over the ghetto and saw the old ones bargaining with each other and weighing out money in copper scales. At last he came to the poor house and looked in. The boy was tossing feverishly on his bed, and the mother had fallen asleep, she was so tired. In he hopped and laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's thimble. Then he flew gently round the bed, fanning the boy's forehead with his wings. How cool I feel, said the boy. I must be getting better. And he sank into a delicious slumber. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince and told him what he had done. It is curious, he remarked, but I feel quite warm now, though it is so cold. That is because you have done a good deed, said the prince. And the little swallow began to think, and then he fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. When day broke, he flew down the river and had a bath. What a remarkable phenomenon, said the professor of ornithology as he was passing over the bridge. A swallow in winter. And he wrote a long letter about it to a local newspaper. Everyone quoted it. It was full of so many words that they could not understand. Tonight I must go to Egypt, said the swallow, and he was in high spirits at the prospect. He visited all the public monuments and sat a long time on top of the church steeple. Wherever he went, sorry. Wherever he went, the sparrows chirruped and said to each other, What a distinguished stranger. So he enjoyed himself very much. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Have you any commissions for Egypt? He cried. I'm just starting. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Will you not stay with me one night longer? I am awaited for in Egypt, answered the swallow. Tomorrow my friends will fly up to the second cataract. The river horse couches there among the bulrushes, and on a great granite throne sits the god Memnon. All night long he watches the stars, and when the morning star shines, he utters one cry of joy, and then he is silent. At noon, the yellow lions come down to the water's edge to drink. They have eyes like green barrels, and their roar is louder than the roar of the cataract. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Far away across the city, I see a young man in a garret. He is leaning over a desk covered with papers, and in a tumbler by his side there is a bunch of withered violets. His hair is brown and crisp, and his lips are red as a pomegranate, and his large and dreamy eyes. He's trying to finish a play for the director of theater, but he is too cold to write any more. There's no fire in the grate, and hunger has made him faint. I will wait with you one night longer, said the swallow, who really had a good heart. Shall I take him another ruby? Alas, I have no ruby now, said the prince. My eyes are all that I have left. They are made of rare sapphires, which were bought out of India 1,000 years ago. Pluck one of them, pluck out one of them and take it to him. He will sell it to the jeweler and buy food and firewood and finish his play. Dear prince, said the swallow, I cannot do that. And he began to weep. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So the swallow plucked out the prince's eye and flew away to the student's garret. It was easy enough to get in, as there was a hole in the roof. Through this he darted and came into the room. The young man had his head buried in his hands, so he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wings. And when he looked up, he found the beautiful sapphire lying on the withered violets. I am beginning to be appreciated, he cried. This is from some great admirer. Now I can finish my play. And he looked quite happy. The next day, the swallow flew down to the harbor. He sat on the mast of a large vessel and watched the sailors hauling big chests out of the hold with ropes. Heave ahoy! They shouted as each chest came up. I am going to Egypt, cried the swallow, but nobody minded. And when the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. I am come to bid you my goodbye, he said. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, will you not stay with me one night longer? It is winter, answered the swallow, and the chill snow will soon be here. In Egypt, the sun is warm on the green palm trees, and the crocodiles lie in the mud and look lazily about them. My companions are building a nest in the table of Baalbek, and the pink and white doves are watching them and cooing to each other. Dear prince, I must leave you, but I will never forget you. And next spring I will bring you back 2 beautiful jewels in place of those you have given away. The ruby shall be redder than a red rose, and the sapphire shall be as blue as the great sea. In the square below, said the happy prince, there stands a little match girl. She's let her matches fall into the gutter, and they are all spoiled. Her father will beat her if she does not bring home some money, and she is crying. She has no shoes or stockings, and her little head is bare. Pluck out my other eye and give it to her, and her father will not beat her. I will stay with you one night longer, said the swallow, but I cannot pluck out your eye. You'll be quite blind then. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince, do as I command you. So he plucked out the prince's other eye and darted down with it. He swooped past the match girl and slipped the jewel into the palm of her hand. What a lovely bit of glass, cried the little girl, and she ran home laughing. Then the swallow came back to the prince. You are blind now, he said, so I will stay with you always. No, little swallow, said the poor prince. You must go away to Egypt. I will stay with you always, said the swallow, and he slept at the prince's feet. Hello in Huber Heights. All the next day he sat on the prince's shoulder and told him stories of what he had seen in strange lands. Ah. I did it again. All this book. He told him of the red ibises who stand in long rows on the banks of the Nile and catch goldfish in their beaks, of the Sphinx who is as old as the world itself and lives in the desert and knows everything, of the merchants who walk slowly by the side of their camels and carry amber beads in their hands, of the king of the mountains of the moon, who is as black as ebony and worships a large crystal,
of the great green snake that sleeps in a palm tree and has 20 priests to feed it with honey cakes, and of the pygmies who sail over a big lake on large flat leaves and are always at war with the butterflies. Dear little swallow, said the prince, you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and of women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry in their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. Under the archway of a bridge, two little boys were lying in one another's arms to try to keep themselves warm. How hungry we are, they said. You must not be here, shouted the watchman, and they wandered out into the rain. Then he flew back and told the prince what he had seen. I am covered with fine gold, said the prince. You must take it off, leaf by leaf, and give it to my poor. The living always think that gold can make them happy. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold the swallow picked off, till the happy prince looked quite dull and gray. Leaf after leaf of the fine gold he brought to the poor, and the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played games in the street. We have bread now, he cried. Then the snow came, and after the snow came the frost. The streets looked as if they were made of silver. They were so bright and glistening. Long icicles like crystal daggers hung down from the eaves of the houses. Everybody went about in furs, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated on the ice. Hang tight just a second, guys. I'm so sorry. Oh, I have to get a handkerchief. I'm sorry. Okay. Woo. Okay. Can't read if you can't see. Okay. Icicles. Icicles on the snow. And the little boys. Okay. I think it's going to get sad again. Okay. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up crumbs outside the baker's door when the baker was not looking and tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. Oh, oh. But at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more. Goodbye, dear prince, he murmured. Will you let me kiss your hand? I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow, said the prince. You have stayed too long here, but you must kiss me on the lips, for I love you. It is not to Egypt that I am going, said the swallow. I am going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep, is he not? And he kissed the happy prince on the lips and fell down dead at his feet. At that moment, a curious crack sounded inside the statue, as if something had broken. The fact is that the leaden heart had snapped right in two. It certainly was a dreadfully hard frost. Early the next morning, the mayor was walking in the square below in the company with the town councilors. As they passed the column, he looked up at the statue. Dear me, how shabby the happy prince looks, he said. Sorry, guys, this one's getting me. Oh, it just keeps going. It's not a short story. How shabby indeed, cried the town councilors, who always agreed with the mayor, and they went up to look at it. The ruby has fallen out of his sword. His eyes are gone, and he is golden no longer, said the mayor, in fact. He is little better than a beggar. Little bit better than a beggar, the town councilors agreed. And here is actually a dead bird at his feet, continued the mayor. We must really issue a proclamation that birds are not to be allowed to die here. Okay, the ridiculousness of a politician. Birds are not allowed to die. At least not right here. That one can talk, so maybe they can read. I don't know. And the town clerk made a note of his suggestion. So they pulled down the statue of the Happy Prince. As he's no longer beautiful, he is no longer useful, said the art professor at the university. Then they melted the statue in a furnace, and the mayor held a meeting of the corporation to decide what was to be done with the metal. We must have another statue, of course, he said. And it shall be a statue of myself. Of myself, said each of the town councilors, and they quarreled. When I last heard of them, they were quarreling still. What a strange thing, said the overseer of the workmen at the foundry. This broken lead heart will not melt in the furnace. We must throw it away. So they threw it on a dust heap where the dead swallow was also lying. Bring me the two most precious things in the city, said God to one of his angels. And the angels brought him the leaded heart and the dead bird. You have rightly chosen, said God. For in my garden of paradise this little bird shall sing forevermore, and in my city of gold the happy prince shall praise me. Ooh, okay. Sorry about that Todd the Fox music right before you guys have to go. I don't know if you are done or if you're back on stage or what, but I'm so glad you guys were both able to join us at the end. As I said, we've got two more Oscar Wilde stories for next week. So that will actually round out April for us. I just love you. I just love you and I miss you. I need your face. So yes, we have two more Oscar Wilde story. Oh God. Did you read this book before you gave this to me? So next week, this one was going to be fine. It's probably going to be great. The Nightingale and the Rose. The story after that is called The Devoted Friend. We're going to have a special guest here. And my best friend in the whole wide world gave me this book. And yeah, she's the whole wide world best friend. Other people will call them BFFs, but we don't live close to each other, so she's the whole wide world best friend. But anyway, so gear up for that. More tears next week. I hope you guys are laughing more than you're crying, because I am. I promise. I am laughing more than I'm crying, or at least on the inside. Sometimes it just comes out like this. But I am so grateful. And then the crying, of course, causes the yawn. I'm not even tired. I promise. I'm pretty caffeinated. This is probably going to keep me up way too late. But we have to have the Whimsy Cup. Also, if you guys know where I can find good Whimsy Cups, I don't need more tumblers. I need Whimsy Cups. So either like plastic wine glass or a fun martini glass. Just something that we can use on the channel to, read and drink with. This is just flavored water with a little bit of a energy squeezer in it. But anyway, I'm going to go and eat my feelings. I don't know. I'm not going to eat my feelings. That seems silly. That was just really sweet. Just really sweet. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on another Wednesday. Do all of the YouTube things, please. Like, share, subscribe. We actually had a big group at one point tonight. I can watch the little thing, and it was more folks than I anticipated. So thank you guys for being here. And we'll see you next week here. See you tomorrow reading some malicious compliance, or tomorrow night at 9, we've got we're talking Mothman, which will be very cool. And then Saturday, like the intro showed, you can come and hang out with me and watch the Todd the Fox Trio at the Sugar Maple Festival in Bellbrook, Ohio. And yeah. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I will see you very, very soon.